Hi there, Frank here for premium members for the trading day of February the 20th, 2025, a Thursday. There's dollar weakening, and I think this will be a long-term process. There are political, macroeconomic reasons. You can read about it as much as you want. I'm not going to go into that, but let me just show you one thing, the Swiss franc, a very long-term chart, 10 years. I can jump on the monthly chart. And the Swiss franc has retested a historic low against the USD. And we are going to see this, I'm going to show it to you in a second, on other major currencies as well. So remember the now historic time of 2011 with the historic spike on the Swiss franc. Now this is a double bottom around 111, 110, and this could be the end of it, of this strengthening of the dollar against the Swiss franc. There are many, many reasons. Again, you can read about it. This is not an accident. I think it's a conscious step actually by the Fed, but I'm not a macroeconomist. That's a different conversation. What I'm saying today is be attentive to this situation here, because this could be the start of a more extended general weakening of the USD against major currency pairs, which the only thing we're interested in, which will give us excellent trading opportunities, whichever country you live in. All right, so here's the Swiss franc long setup. Let me also jump onto the other ones quickly. Australian dollar is already moving. So if you follow the algorithmic signals, you could be in a long trade already with very good reason. Look at the small charts. So 1R is quite likely. British pound. Also on smaller accounts, very important to know, if you're a technically motivated trader with a professional risk management rule set, then you will look at the last column here, which will give you an objective measure of risk. And you will see that the currencies are by far the least risky. So if you trade a relatively small account, and if you want to trade it responsibly, then this is what you should be looking at, currencies. Look at the British pound, beautiful long setup on the 4-hour, and the daily is moving nicely as well. It's impossible not to notice the measured move, whichever way you look at it. This is just roughly. Okay, so that's where we're going, and the measured move points us towards the previous major pivot. Canadian dollar, expect strengthening against the USD. Look at this long setup, and I'm expecting just a test of the upper Keltner, like always, roughly this area here. Okay, there's Euro trade as well. So pick the one you like best, or which you're most accustomed to. I didn't look at the Japanese yen. That's the only one I didn't look at. Okay, it's already the most advanced. It hit the upper Keltner. So our algorithmic signal makes no mistakes. So this is the most ideal candle to go long on. Okay, and so that was the Japanese yen. And one more thing I want to show you, the New Zealand dollar, which is the least risky, beautiful to trade, moves together usually with the Australian dollar, so you can put on your correlation workspace and handle it that way. And the 4-hour chart is triggering, or has already triggered, depending on how you look at it. Look at this complex pullback, beautiful daily structure. Doesn't get better than this. Hi there, Frankie for premium members for the trading day of February 21st, 2025, a Friday. All right. However, there's some better news on currencies on which our reading was correct yesterday. Hopefully, some of you were doing some good work here. Look at the 6A, 6B, all of them. So our reading about the USD and its relation to the major pairs so far have been correct. Anyway, what it is translated into is just concrete trades, 1-hour trades, no big deals, but they are by and large working. Some of us have not really gone away yet. You see, for example, the 6E is just about to break out. not too late to pursue these. And the 6N is also long in progress, but the daily, you see, there is still time to consider a long trade on the daily. Hi there, Frankie for premium members for the trading day of February 24, 2025, a Monday. In the meantime, if you want to be active this week, and if you think the way I do, then I would look at currencies. There's some good setups here on currencies, almost on each of them that we follow. Good. Even the Canadian dollar looks good for an upside break. 6E, breakout trade, look at this. And 6J has practically reached the 1R already, so this is an advanced state. So the train has left the station on this one, but for example, the New Zealand dollar is just triggering right now, Monday morning. So if you want to look for opportunities, I would look at currencies. And this also, all these correspond to the general weakening of the USD, the way I see it. So they look good. Hi there, Frankie for premium members for the trading day of February 27, 2025, a Thursday. Let's move on to currencies. 6E first. I still think that this is a long setup here, waiting for a breakout, which means that this last gasp of a short signal should be ignored. If it breaks down, it's a new ball game, but I am expecting a bullish breakout. Now, if you do expect that too, then the next question is, how are you going to structure a trade based on this potential opportunity? And the way you're going to do that is, well, several ways possibly. The way I'm going to think about this is the first pullback after the breakout. So this is how I think about it. All right, some other setups here. The similar setup actually on the Swiss franc. You see, same as on the 6E, pretty much. Same story, same plan. And let's look at the New Zealand dollar as well. Not much happening here. If it triggers later, we're going to look at it, but right now there's no action item here. Hi there, Frankie for premium members for the trading day of March the 10th, 2025, a Monday. Nothing on the four indexes is inviting for me, so we're going to look at some other markets, okay? So let's look at some excellent conditions here on currencies. We are in the midst of general USD weakening. Go back a week, we forecasted this event pretty accurately, and this was the breakout area. This was all reported to you in time before the events happened. So right now, of course, there's nothing to do here on the 6E. We need to wait for a pullback. However, 6A, look at this beautiful setup on the 4-hour chart coming out of a hot zone. This is expected to trigger to the upside. And the minimum we can expect is a retest of 0.64, the previous pivot on the daily. That's what we're looking for, but probably there's more in this. All right, so just the first step, a long trade here. And if you're new to this, this is what it looks like. Give me a second here. Think of it something like this. A trade, just a 1-hour trade on the 6A. And then you can also do something similar on the New Zealand dollar. Look at this beautiful bull flag here on the 4-hour chart. We're expecting this market also to go to the upside. Now, there's some other currencies which are more advanced. The bull flag has already triggered a day or two ago on the Swiss francs and so on. So you can look at some other markets as well, but the 6A, 6N looks rock solid for tomorrow. Hi there, Frankie for premium members for the trading day of March the 11th, 2025, a Tuesday. Now, on to other markets where the money is. Where we can make some money is one of them is currencies. Beautiful setups here, so don't despair. There are excellent opportunities coming up. We have telegraphed this a few days ago. Since then, let's just go one by one, okay? So 6A, 4-hour chart. This is a double or complex pullback here, which is building. So this is a natural process. We didn't trigger it. Did you notice? We didn't trigger it the first time around. Now we have a complex bull flag. This is very healthy, and this is something we definitely want to be interested in. That's one market. You can target the previous major pivot around 0.64. Other markets, I mean, there's too many to list because they all move together, as you know. Here's the British pound breaking out. You can target 1.34, the previous pivot. And let's just continue with the 6E, which has already triggered. This was the breakout area a couple of days ago, and there's still more to go. But probably this is not the one that you would want to pursue right now if you're flat on this market. And just a quick look at some of the other ones. This is not surprisingly same as the 6A. So we're looking at the New Zealand dollar, same complex pullback, not to be missed if you're technical trader. Trading currencies is in your trading plan. The Swiss franc, we talked about it for a while now, a week ago, starting a week ago. Here we go, second pullback opportunity here. And it is just working as expected. If you want to go long out of this pullback here, then target the major pivot on the daily chart, which is around 115 plus a little bit. Okay, last but not least, that's done for currencies. All right, let's move on to other markets. The other markets where money can be made is precious metals. It is impossible not to notice the opportunity here for trained eyes. This is the trade on the daily chart. You can fine-tune it on smaller charts any way you want, but it doesn't really matter. What you have to do is do this. That's all you need for now, and potentially keep a runner because gold can easily go to 4,000 or 5,000 pretty soon. Hi there, Frank here for premium members for the trading day of March the 12th, 2025, a Wednesday. Moving on to currencies. Currencies are one of the success stories in the past week or so. Go back to the videos we started with before any of these moves happened, and some of these moves are still coming up. For example, the 6A, look at this. We expect this to trigger. Beautiful structure. Let's look at the British pound as well. More advanced. This was the trade or the trigger a few days ago. Beautiful. And then the 6E was the one that we tracked closely, starting before this breakout. A couple of days ago, go back. It's a nice lesson as well, a little study in how to identify opportunities in the markets. So this is all captured in videos in real time. And also the New Zealand dollar is moving nicely. Look at this. Good setup for today, a potential breakout trade or a complex bull flag on the 4-hour chart. Let's also look at the Swiss franc. So now we are in a pullback. I think this is nice, evolving nicely. Now, maybe it's too early to put this here on the 4-hour chart because we might still get a red bar before we start moving up. But let's just suppose that we're going to start moving up here after the open. Then the trade would look something like this. And just to recap, if you're new on premium, these lines here identify the plan. Entry area, stop, and target. That's the job. And what you should do a little math about is size. So some of these trades, like every trade that we ever do, will be losers. So don't bet the farm, in other words. Spread it out and be reasonable. But most of these setups are expected to work. Also, one more note on the currencies, that these are correlated trades, which means if one fails, the other one will be also more likely to fail. So don't pile up trades in the same direction. Hi there, Frank here for premium members for the trading day of March the 14th, 2025, a Friday. Look at this beautiful structure here on the 6A, expected to keep moving to the upside. Please note that this is what's happening here on the 4-hour chart is just what trading is. There's nothing we can do about it. We went long here. We need to give it a little time. This is what we call a secondary consolidation. Some other trading legends call it a nested bull flag. Whatever name we call it by, this is a behavior by the market which is actually conducive to our bullish plans here. You see, just a little pause after the breakout. Perhaps the weak hands give up hope. We didn't, and now it's moving to the upside. No guarantees for a 1R, like there's never a guarantee, but this is what we're aiming for. Also, once we're on the subject here, so please note, when you go long out of a bull flag, another typical market behavior, we need to conquer some levels. And at these levels, the previous pivots, which are on the chart, and they jump off the chart, impossible not to know them or see them, they are the first hurdles. And there is a little chance that the trade might fail here. So if you want to lock in profits or trail it appropriately, whether algorithmically with BT or a little bit manually with the mouse with Pro STR. Either way, make sure that you manage the trade. And also the second pivot here, the previous high, is also visible on the chart. So this is how this whole thing works. If you want to look at some other currencies, then you can look at them one by one. Make sure that if the one you pick has, well, ideally has already given us a bull flag on the daily. This is, things can keep moving, but the ideal setup for us is a healthy bull flag on the daily chart. And then we can look at some more microscopic view on the 4-hour chart, and so on and so on. All right, we also looked at the 6E, which was well advanced last time we saw, you see, but the next structure is emerging on the 4-hour chart. But just please note, we have a real major pivot here on the daily right in front of us, which is a hurdle. So this is right now what we call, and you know what I'm going to say here, is pressure into resistance. 6J Japanese yen is next. You see, so this has already given us the bull flag, and now we're waiting for the reemergence of momentum, which will be probably come to us in the form of a long signal here. Also, notice the failure test. If you want to look at the small chart, then this is what it looks like on the 60-minute. Okay, and then there was one more 6N is similar usually to the 6A. Here we go. The daily looks the same. There's a little bit of more back and forth on the 4-hour chart, but don't worry about the details. What's happening is obvious on the daily chart. And the Swiss franc was very well advanced last time we looked at it, but now it also building a bull flag here on the daily. So whichever you want to trade, don't trade them all because it's basically the same trade, a trade against the USD. Hi there, Frank here for premium members for the trading day of March the 17th, 2025, a Monday. Let's move on to currencies on which the situation is much more aligned with our trading plan. Look at this. So we are working on long trades or setups here. 6E is getting ready for the next leg up. Pressure into resistance. This is a setup that we prefer trading, so be on the lookout for that. And also, generally, there's a long-term, I think foreseeably, a pretty long-term weakening of the USD, so you can keep an eye on these major pairs if you trade currencies. Look at this. There's a little study here. So we were long here, and now we mentioned that this is the first hurdle. Remember, the first major pivot after the entry is coming up now. So we need to clear this level 0.63 or so before we can continue to the next one. So manage the trade if you're long here. And other currencies, I could show, and probably I will show you all of them because there's good long setups on all. There are little slight differences. This is 6B, the British pound. And then I'm going to also show you the Japanese yen, which I was looking at. Here we go. Pretty nice little bull flag here. Now, note on the Japanese yen, these potential failure tests. So we do keep an eye on this, for example, here. See Friday, just a quick one around somewhere early morning Eastern time.
So this could be the beginning of a long move, as we expect from a bull flag normally. And 6N is also moving nicely. Look at this. The daily hasn't really gone too far yet if you want to participate here. And the Swiss franc, just to close the list. Here we go, bull flag, similar to the others. If it triggers, I think it's worth a shot to the upper counter, perhaps even on the weekly. Okay, let's move on to some other markets. Of course, precious metals is next. Gold is 3,000. Here we go. And probably that's not the end of it, so be in position if you trade this market. And silver is 34. This is also something 34 and change. The previous pivot, and the next one is 35 and change, so we are long on silver.
Hi there, Frank here for premium members. Intraday, 11 a.m. Monday morning. I just want to share this quick note here with you guys who trade currencies. And if you go back the premium nightly videos, you know that we've been eyeing and being active on currencies lately. Some excellent lessons here. Look at this 6A. We were talking about first having to conquer the previous pivot, which occurred a couple of hours ago, and now we conquered or retested the previous major pivot. This is an excellent lesson in how pullback trades develop. And also we mentioned the importance of starting to manage the trade as we fight our way through the first pivot here. And please note that nothing ever is 100% in trading. We're working with probabilities, so a small subset of these trades will fail, but that's completely fine with us. This is an instance where actually everything worked to the letter as we hope it would for most trades. All right, so this is the 6A. Remember this visually. Pivot and then conquering the second pivot. In this case, the 1R is just about the same distance as the pivot. We talked about situations in previous videos where the 1R might be within the range, within the distance of the first pivot, or it could be outside. There's some implications, but in this case, it's just about the same area. So just another example of how our method works out in real time on the markets. Let's also look at some other currencies because they're moving and you should take note of these. So not all trains have left the station yet. Look at the 6B moving to the upside. Quite likely that this level 133 will be tested or retested in the near future. Also note that the Canadian dollar is moving up. This is all in relation to the general weakening of the USD, which is a completely different conversation, but just take note of it and look at this. This is how currencies move in tandem, actually. And you can also go through them all. Here we go. The 6E is moving out of this consolidation here, a little bit stretched to the upside at the counter, but this happens too, and I think it's worth a shot for a 1R. Remember, there is a previous pivot here, which we have to fight our way through. So make sure that you either take partial profits here or tighten stops. Okay, let's look at the other ones too, see what we can make of this. You see, this train has not yet left the station. 6J, we expect this to trigger and hit the 1R. So this is ahead of us. And 6N, beautifully worked. Look at this. This is a complex consolidation. Enough said, that's based on the previous video. And this has all been shared with you in advance. And now we, well, by whatever measure, wherever you went long here, we have a 1R. Partly a reserve currency, similar to the 6J, visually, of course. And we also expect to trigger. This train is also about to leave the station, not too late to hop on it. So I just wanted to share this with you, and just another instance of how our methodology works, no matter what is happening outside of the markets and what conditions we may have to do our work. The technical patterns keep working, and it really makes sense to just keep doing what we do every day. So we'll be back soon with further announcements. I'm planning some workshops this week, and I hope you all are doing well and following the methodology. Thanks very much. We'll be back soon, and until then, mindful trading. Hi there, Frank here for premium members for the trading day of March the 18th, 2025, a Tuesday. All right, let's move on to currencies on which we've done some good work lately. Let's review where we are now. So 6A is a saga that we've been following for quite a few days now, maybe a week or two as it started. And now we are 1R plus. Now this is nothing but another long setup here. And we have not hit the Keltner on the daily yet, so I would say there's a little room here. Also notice that the intraday chart, the 15-minute and such, are still moving to the downside, but this is a long setup, so I would never think of shorting a bull flag on the 4-hour chart, let alone this environment on the daily. This is just a natural retracement, and I'm looking at it as a bull flag in progress. All right, let's look at some of the other markets here. 6B has triggered on the 4-hour, but there's no trade without pain. So if you're long here, you just have to bear with it and manage it according to our rules. Ultimately, I would say that it's pretty likely, to say the least, that we're going to hit 134. So give it a little room if you're on this market. Also, always size correctly and make sure that you're not overloaded and you're not run over by emotions. Okay, next one is Canadian dollar, a little bit of a top tail. But by and large, we're also expecting the Canadian dollar to strengthen. There are some other factors here between the US and Canada, as everybody knows, so trading the Canadian dollar is not necessarily my first choice among the currencies. Let's move on to 6E. Same as the 6B, so I'm not going to go repeat the whole thing. And 6J is a market that offers us a little lesson this morning. So we always insist on a trigger. If there's no trigger, there's no trade. It's that simple. Also, if you notice, we had a short setup here within a bearish hot zone. I didn't take that short, not in this environment, but nonetheless, that's just a situation. We never got in, no trade, no entry, no harm done. The lesson here again is that we always insist on a trigger to enter a trade from a setup. All right, 6N was one of the success stories of the past week or so. Look at this, so 1R plus here on this market. And we hit the upper Keltner on the daily, so it was time to take profits. And that's about it for currencies. Let's move on to metals, which continues to be a success story for us here. So gold is, look at this beautiful 1R on the daily. Hi there, Frank here for premium members for the trading day of March the 24th, 2025, a Monday. All right, let's go on to currencies on which, if you're new to this, the way we do this, we look at DX, or if you don't have DX in your data feed, then look at 6E, which is the mirror image of the DX, the dollar index, and draw conclusions from there. So what do we see on the 6E? A pretty good looking bull flag from last week pointing towards a pressure into resistance. So that would mean that we can expect similar trades on other major pairs. Let me just show you one, the British pound, which looks good. Nice bull flag here on the daily, which we expect to trigger and take us back to 134-ish area. You can look at the other ones too, see which one you like best, but I think this 6B looks pretty good. Hi there, Frank here for premium members for the trading day of April the 1st, 2025, a Tuesday. All right, so first of all, currencies. Good setups here to the long side. We talked about this a few times. USD weakening in general, and that will mean some strengthening on majors. Look at this beautiful bull flag here on the 6E. A trade, a sensible trade would probably look something like this, a 1R back to the major pivot.
And also 6B looked good. Here we go, beautiful bull flag on the daily on 6B, and 6S, the Swiss franc, was the third one that I was looking at. All right, a little bit hesitating, but I think by and large this is going to be, I expect this also to move to the upside. So look at currencies if you want to trade those markets. They look good. Obviously, the success story is gold, which is becoming very similar to 2011 if you were around. It's kind of hyperbolic even on the weekly. So what can you say about a chart like this? You see obvious bull flags and the obvious breakout area, remember? Look at this. So if you were following me on gold, then you're probably loaded on ETFs and such, and good for you. Most recently, by the way, on gold, we had a 1R plus.
Hi there, Frank here for premium members for the trading day of April the 10th, 2025, a Thursday.
And I'm looking for longs in general, but we need to see what's going on here. As a basic rule, if you agree with me, always look for just the usual setup. So don't be influenced by the news or don't get sidetracked about stuff. And just keep an eye on the charts and look for the usual setups. If the setups are there, pursue it if it fits your risk profile.
Hi there, Frank here for premium members for the trading day of April the 11th, 2025, a Friday. Let's move on to currencies on which we nailed some 1Rs. If you go back, and I'm sure you know, we've been talking about USD weakening and long setups on currencies. And now we have a beautiful 1R on the 6E. So the technical patterns continue to work here. And also on the other one, look at this 3+R move on the Swiss franc. Excellent quantitative trigger here. Impossible not to recognize the opportunity here on the daily time frame.